Hey, what's going on, YouTube? It's Falsa. I'm here in my KVK. We got about 18 and a half or so hours before the Dragon Zone opens. Obviously, that's the highlight of the season. Really looking forward to it. But, the downside is when I'm in the Dragon Zone, I'm focused on fighting. And so don't really have a lot of time to make videos. So I thought I'd put out a video out today talking about the marches I've been using this season. And in particular, I thought today we'd focus on the Mage march. So for most of the season, these are the Mage marches I was using. Mostly pretty standard. Lily Valen, Bert Tohar, no surprises there, exactly what you expect. Not going to go into any great detail about them. I'll talk a little bit more about Theia in a bit. And then we got my underperformers. Thundel Thalia, not really happy with the way that's going. And then I tried Walder, Bayhorn, really unhappy with those guys. So let's talk through those three marches real quick. So we started with Theia. This has been doing great, all right? Throughout the season, Lily Valen was always my number one rated marches, but Theia were just behind them. Now, a couple caveats here. The first is you have to kind of have these guys built out. They don't perform well at a lower investment level. Now, you see my Mu here. She's obviously awakened, but that's actually a pretty new development for me. I only awakened her when the Kuma appeared in the daily deal. And so she's only been awakened for like 3 or 4 days for me, but she was always pretty strong. I think I had her like 5-3, 5-5 or something like that for most of the season. Okay, pretty good. And obviously my Theia's awakened. You need both of those. The other thing is the Visage of the Sanctus artifact, and you can see it here. I have it maxed out. It's really great for this march, right? There's a lot of good mage artifacts, but the Visage just works so well with these guys. There's such great synergy between all the shields and the buffs and the healing. It works out great. I don't think these guys would perform nearly as well with any other mage artifact. Now, the last thing is you really need Celestials with these guys to get the best performance from them. Obviously, Celestials, they're just better than normal mages anyway. But Theia's got a skill here, Purging Wind. It basically gives you additional buffs if you have flying troops, right? You get additional attack and additional march speed. The thing to note here is you don't need to be flying to take advantage of the skill. You just need to have flying troops. Obviously, Mu doesn't fly, so this march is never going to fly. But because I'm using Celestials with this march, I do get the benefit of Purging Wind. Okay, now like I said, throughout the season, I was getting a bunch of reports. Lily Valen was always first, and then Theia was like just a little bit behind, and then like Bert Tohar in third place, and then, my scrub marches bringing up the rear. But I had a thought about this. Like, first of all, like I said, Mu's only been awakened for a little bit. For most of those reports, she wasn't awakened. The other thing is I have a really kind of a mediocre pet with Mu. It's a sand lizard. Here it is. You're like, hey, that's not very impressive. You're right, it's not. This is just what I had kind of lying around when I put this march into use. And I want to make a better pet. The bottom line is I just have higher priorities now. I'm working on my Moss Rock. I still need to finish off my Auric, etc. I want to get to this, I just haven't yet. And so at some point I was like, hey, the Lily Valen, they got a really strong pet here, and they're only doing a little bit better than my Theia. What's going to happen if I swap these pets out? And I tried it, and like here was the first result I got. Okay, to be fair, that was with the Warlord buff, so like I got good reports anyways, but this was still like 3 times better than everyone else in that march. And like here are some other reports I've been getting without the Warlord buff, and you can see the comparison between the marches. Fair point here when we're comparing these reports. You always got to keep in mind that this is an RNG game. Things happen. Like a single march can get targeted and focused fired, and it's going to get a bad report that time out. But it is pretty consistent now that Theia is outperforming everyone since I let them borrow the very good Sapphire. Hey, I'm prepared to say that Theia is the best mage march in the game right now. Better than Lily Valen, better than Bert Tohar. They're number one. And the funny thing is, technically, neither of them are actually mages. They're both overall support type heroes, but they're the best mages in the game right now. Okay, the other marches, Thundel Thalia. I sometimes get good reports from her, but I'm just as likely to get a bad report from her. Her and Thalia were clearly in 4th place the entire time. And from what I like breaking down the reports, it seems to me that like Thundelin's doing pretty decent. It's, it's the goat girl, Theia, that's really kind of dragging this march down here. So I thought, how can I change this out? And then my final march was Bayhorn and Waldir. All right, this was just terrible. Now Walder is like bait for me, right? Because it seems like he should be so good. His toolkit's actually pretty good. AoE damage, can hit up to 4 legions, and it looks like a pretty nice debuff on them. He's got the skills tree. It seems like he should be a pretty good mage, but I don't know. Like, we don't really play this game for the story, but sometimes I think the story creeps in here when we're not watching. So if you take a look at, Walder's background story, it implies he's a pretty heavy drinker. And I think it's my head canon that every time I send Walder out to fight, he's drunk. And that's why he's always like doing stupid things, getting caught out. I'll give a command to all 5 of my mages, and only Walder goes the wrong way. So I think he's drunk every time I fight with him. Okay. So like I said, those 2 marches were doing poor for me, so I made some changes. And here's what I'm going with now. First 3 marches, basically the same. The only change here is I promoted Theia. They have the good Sapphire now. Lily Valen's got sort of a secondary Sapphire for me. Then I'm trying Walder Thundolin, right? They both do skill damage, but I kind of use this more as a support march. I see I have the Breath of Gigantus artifact on there. That's a very good support artifact, but obviously gives them no merits individually. And the other thing is I have a Sand Lizard with them. It's that really kind of mediocre or worse Sand Lizard from before, just to give them some support, some healing. I'm not expecting these guys to do damage. I expect them to, support my other marches, and please, Walder, show up sober. The last march here you see pretty common Zeta Magrat, except for I've reversed them. Okay, why have I done this? I think we all know that Magrat Zeta, they can be in a very effective mage march, but the reason I stayed away from this is twofold. First of all, I have Magrat built out to be an archer, but her best marksman build does not support a mage build, and I didn't want to do some hybrid build and get kind of the worst of both worlds. The other reason I was concerned about using these guys as a mage march was the stamina problem. And it's pretty obvious, right? If you use one hero in multiple formations, right? If I use Magze as both mages and archers, then the chances that I run out of stamina with them in a big fight go up very quickly. Well, the thing about this season is I'm fighting a lot of infantry, I'm fighting a lot of cav, and I'm fighting a ton of mages. I'm fighting very few archers, right? The lack of long-range warfare, I just don't use these guys for PvP very much. It's not never, but it's pretty limited. And so this season, I felt comfortable sort of double using my archers because they weren't getting used. I didn't want to give up the talent tree. I wanted to keep her as a marksman, just so she's good when I do use marksman, and also good for behemoths and stuff like that. And so I went the other way. I gave Zeta the lead as the mage hero, and you can see she's got the Infernal Flame and a Sapphire here. And her talent tree is built out so she can lead mages. Okay, now how have I built these heroes out? Well, we'll go through them one by one. First, we'll start with Lily. Nothing too exciting here. She has the skill damage build. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is I sync the movement speed of all my mage marches at either 21 or 22%. That's why you have kind of the weird 1 point here. She's paired with Valen. Valen gives 20% movement speed anyway, so I don't need much. And that's why I've built it out this way. All right, so here's the Moo build. Now, remember, Theia gives 20% movement speed if you use Moo with Flyers, Celestials. And so I don't need much movement speed with her. I only need that 1 point there. This build's really built around getting rage, getting shields, getting healing, and all the synergies those give to each other. It's honestly works extremely well. The key talents here are Pick Me Up, which gives you rage every time you're seeing healing or a shield, right? And then you got a ton of fuelers for that, like Rebirth. And then I choose Punisher, which gives you a little bit more payoff anytime you get healing. But you can also choose Flock of Blessing, which also just gives you more healing, more synergy, right? Both of these are valid. I like a little bit more payoff instead of the little bit more synergy. And then you just go on this side and just get as much additional rage generation as you can get. All right, here's Bert. I've been using this build with Bert, I think, pretty much the season he came out, and I've never changed it much. We're going for much skill damage here. Now you might think, hey, Tohar doesn't have a rage skill, but Tohar benefits when you cast a rage skill. So things like, Head L High benefit both Bert and Tohar. And like I said, these guys are performing a solid 3rd place for me. All right, here's the Walder build. You need to pick up a bit more movement speed here, but otherwise this is pretty much the same skill damage build. You want to get as much skill damage as possible, and like I said, I love energy boost over here because both Walder and Thundolin are hitting a lot of targets, so this 8%, it triggers pretty often. And finally, we've got the Zeta build. Now, Zeta's got the marksman tree, and so you got to kind of stay out of the marksman tree when you're running mages. and then mobility, which is okay but not spectacular, and then finally PvP, which is sort of the same thing, right? This isn't amazing. This is not an amazing mage build, but hey, she's an archer hero, and so being able to put at least a decent mage build together, hey, it works pretty well. And you saw the reports. These guys aren't killing it, but they're solid. They're better than the other choices I have. All right, so this is the mage formation I'm running now. Like I mentioned, I only switched to this a few days ago. It's doing pretty well so far, but I don't have a ton of data yet. I expect to get a lot more data soon as we head into the Dragon Zone. So I'll bring you a full report when our KVK ends, as well as my other marches, particularly infantry and cap. All right, and that's all I got for you today. And until next time, you stay classy, Belleron.